Let us be in the spirit of prayer. Dear Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Matthew actually gives us two lessons this morning. The first part of Matthew's gospel lesson has Jesus with Matthew, a different writer than the Gospel of Matthew, a different person, I should say. This Matthew is a tax collector. Oh, those tax collectors. They're not the most popular persons in town, are they? Every April 15th, we don't like the tax collector, do we? When we have to fill out our taxes and give back to Uncle Sam what we're owed. Or if you're fortunate enough, Uncle Sam gives you back some money because you've paid enough into the system and you've paid more than your assessed tax value. So Jesus is with Matthew, the tax collector. And he says to Matthew, "Come, follow me. Be my disciple. Come and listen to what I have to say." And so Jesus and Matthew go to a house, and they're eating a meal, and all of a sudden the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the people in power, the people who think they have all the answers or know all the answers, they come in and they say, "Why is this Jesus fellow sitting down with tax collectors and sinners and the least likely in society, the ones who have been overlooked and stepped over?" And what does Jesus say in answer to this question? Those who need help or need a doctor are not in need. It's those that are low, that are sinners, that are on the margins, that need my help. This first part of Matthew's gospel lesson is really a call to us for ministry, a call to us to realize who we should be in ministry to: the lonely, the hurting, the rejected, the mentally ill, those afflicted with addiction, those who may love differently than some of the rest of us love, those who may speak differently than the tongue that we speak in. It's a call to action. It's a call to, as Jesus said, "Come and follow me." If you think that following Jesus is the easy way, if you think that following Jesus will get you hooked up with the right people in town, you've probably come to the wrong place. Because following Jesus means that we go to the places that maybe we don't want to go to. It means that we connect with the people that maybe we do not want to connect with. It means trying to figure out how to communicate with someone whose language is different than ours. The first part of Matthew's gospel lesson, a call to ministry, a call to discipleship. But then there's a break in Matthew's gospel lesson. We pick up Jesus later in Matthew's gospel lesson, and he's out walking. And a father comes up to him and says, "Please come, my daughter's sick and she died." And so Jesus walks towards where this young girl is. And as he's walking, there's this lady who just reaches out and touches the hem of his robe. And she thinks to herself, "If only I can touch his hem. If only I could reach out to Jesus." if only I would be made whole, I would be healed. And Jesus feels this touch on his robe and he stops. And understanding what this lady is doing, he reaches out to her and he says, "Your faith has made you whole." Faith. In that work of the first part of the gospel lesson where we're talking about being in ministry, being disciples, what fortifies us in that process? Our faith. Our faith is what drives us to be disciples, is what feeds us in discipleship. Knowing that God will be with us, that God goes with us. Faith to say, I don't know how I'll get through, but with God's help I will. So from the outset, it sounds like these two pieces of Matthew's gospel lesson may not be connected. But I would submit to you that they are very much connected. We can't be Christ's disciples. We can't go out into the world and profess that we are Christ's disciples without faith within ourselves that we're doing what Christ has asked us to do. I met Sean working together at SMA Healthcare, working with people that have mental illness and substance use disorder. We work together on a number of different policies. I'm the director of the outpatient clinic for substance use disorder. We have a MAT clinic, a medication-assisted treatment clinic, where we provide medication to people that are addicted to opioids, along with therapy and case management and peer services to wrap around a bunch of different services, not just to give somebody medication, but in the process of getting that medication, how do we look at the underlying issues that people are presenting with, whether that's mental health or post-traumatic or family dynamics? Because until you get to the point where you're dealing with those underlying issues, you're always going to have the issue of substance use because you're using that to take care of the issues that really need to be dealt with. Ministry, faith. Part of my CPE work, clinical pastoral education, was to work with people that were coming into the clinic. One of the things that we don't do a very good job with in healthcare, there's a lot we don't do a very good job with in healthcare, but one of those things is looking at a holistic approach. And by holistic, I mean looking at the whole person. At SMA Healthcare, we're trying to be holistic in some ways of looking at people's mental health, physical health, and substance use. But there's another piece of people's well-being, and that's their spiritual health. That's their faith. If we're not looking at people's mental health and physical health and their spiritual health, we're not looking at the whole person. So what I did in my CPE is I had a group of people that were coming into the clinic, and I sat down with them and I talked to them about their faith journey, about what it meant to be active in addiction, but also have a sense of their faith. And I sat down with this one gentleman. He's probably in his late 20s, early 30s. Grew up in a very evangelical family. One of the places that he went to for addiction recovery was a very faith-based, in my opinion only, a very warped faith-based approach. And he was told that because he wasn't in the journey of recovery, or he wasn't embracing his recovery, it was because he didn't have faith enough, that he didn't love God enough, that he wasn't good enough for God to treat him and to bring him into recovery. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I do know that that's not a God that I worship. That's not a God that I believe in, that would say to someone, you're not good enough. Matthew's gospel lesson this morning tells us the opposite, doesn't it? Jesus is with those who are addicted. Jesus is with those who have mental health issues. So I talked to him about his faith. And he said at this point that he went to this addiction treatment facility and was told that he didn't have faith enough, that he wasn't loved enough, that he didn't pray hard enough, that it really affected his faith. It really affected who he thought he was as a person of God. And it took him a long time to get over that. The damage that sometimes we do in the name of Christ, in the name of religion. But he found another treatment center that helped him to embrace his faith, helped him to understand that he was a beloved child of God, that God didn't want us to be perfect all the time or put together all the time. That it's okay to have rough edges. It's okay to struggle with our faith. It's okay to question. Because God never leaves us. God is always with us. And he said the faith that he now has is much stronger, much more encouraging for him, because somebody showed him that God loves him no matter who he is or where he is on life's journey. That's true for us too, folks. We are called every day to be a disciple. Some days it's going to be easy. Some days it's going to be fun. Some days we're going to get so uplifted in the prospects of being Christ's disciples. But there are going to be days, like my friend who is addicted to pain pills, when being Christ's disciple is going to be tough. It's going to be hard. We're going to get smacked around, hopefully not physically, but we're going to get words thrown at us, questions sent to us that maybe we don't have the perfect answer to. We're going to connect with people that may smell a little bit, may not look like us. That's the cost of being a disciple. Through the good times and the bad times. But your faith pulls you through. Your faith shows you the right path. Your faith is what you hold on to. Discipleship, ministry, faith. They are so linked together. They are so a part of who we are as brothers and sisters with Christ. We come here this morning as Christ's disciples, as Christ's church. But the work of ministry, the work of discipleship, doesn't happen in this room on Sunday morning. Oh, yes, it does. But it doesn't just happen on Sunday morning in worship. Worship is just where we come to be fed, to be uplifted, to be nurtured. It's when you turn around and you go out those doors or those doors. I'm not sure if there's a door on this side, but if there is, on that door. The point is, it's once you leave this sanctuary that real ministry happens. Whether it's walking in a pride parade in Orlando, or walking in a march for the right of people who have no food, whether it's talking to your neighbor who is depressed and lonely, whether it's working with people in the midst of addiction, trying to figure out a better life, whether it's with single mothers and single dads. That's where true ministry is. That's where Christ is calling us to be. With the tax collectors. In our faith that what we do as Christ's body. To feed and clothe, to love, to nurture those who need Christ's presence. So the homework for you this week, here's this fill-in pastor and he's giving us homework. Whose great idea was it to have him come this morning? It's easy homework. Well, no, it's not easy, but it's necessary. Go out and be Christ to the world. Go out and let your faith drive you to be all that you can be. To be hands and arms and feet and eyes and voice for those who do not have. To be Christ to one another in love and joy, in openness and acceptance. Challenge taken?
Yes, amen.
So I'm going to connect with Sean after next Sunday and ask him how many people got an A in their homework. I'm sure all of you can get A's, or at least a B+. I'll give you some grace.